So before we get started, I want to explain why we do things because I think that's important. So I'm going to start with this statement and I will build from it. Almost all injuries that occur in distance running are due to overuse. So how do overuse injuries occur? For most people, overuse has something to do with running with faulty biomechanics. When running with faulty biomechanics, you're loading your joints in ways that are less than optimal, and you're putting unnecessary stress on your bones, muscles, and tendons and whatnot. So now, what is the cause of faulty biomechanics? Faulty biomechanics can be caused by a variety of things, but the one that I'm addressing in this video is the weakness in specific muscle groups that are actively used in running. Everyone can start a session with relatively good form, but as soon as those muscle groups get fatigued, your form will break down and you revert back to those faulty biomechanics and you're putting unnecessary stress on your body again. So one way to improve those weaknesses outside of running is to come up with exercises that target those specific muscle groups. So this routine that I'm about to show you has a variety of strengthening and stability exercises. I know people have different opinions on this, but I like to do my strength sessions twice per week after my hardest sessions of the week. For example, this session was completed and recorded after a hard 18-mile run. First, I think there's a lot of benefit to practicing proper movements and stability while under fatigue. Second, I kind of like the whole hard days hard, easy days easy for physical and psychological reasons. If I'm alternating just about every day throughout the week with a tough running session on one day, followed by my strength training the next day, followed by a tough running session again, I feel like I'm never mentally recovering throughout the week. So I'm not saying that this is the best routine out there, but it's certainly a great start if you don't do any ancillary training at the moment. Most of these exercises can be done almost anywhere and you only need a couple pieces of equipment, so there's really no excuse to not be getting this stuff in. So first, let's look at what the entire strength routine consists of, and then I will demonstrate each exercise. So for these first 6 exercises, I like to put these in pairs and complete a pair before I move on to the next one. So for example, with the first pair, I will start with my first set of squats and then my first set of hip bridges, and then I will complete my second set of squats and my second set of hip bridges. Once that pair is complete, I will move on to the next pair and do the same thing. Basically, this just allows for a little bit of saved time, so instead of recovering between sets of squats, you're just doing a different exercise during that time. Another way that you can do this is to do the first set of all 6 exercises and then cycle back through for the second set. After completing both sets of all of these exercises, then we'll move on to a couple that involve a med ball, and then we'll finish up with some plank and stability exercises. So I like to start off with something pretty basic just because it kind of lets my body know that I'm not done working out yet. I also add hardly any weight to any of these exercises just because typically I've already worked hard enough in my running session. So here are a few key points for the squats. Keep your body weight on your heels, try to get your thighs parallel to the ground, keep your spine in a neutral position, and try to keep your knees in line with your toes or even slightly behind. That's something I could do a little bit better here. It looks like my knees are slightly in front of my toes, but not by much. For the hip bridges here, you can start with doing it on 2 legs if you're new to the exercise. I just like trying to make everything one-legged if possible because it makes it much more functional to running. So again, for this exercise, you want to be putting all of your weight into your heel. When in the elevated position, you want there to be a straight line through your shoulders, hips, knees, and ankle. With your elevated leg, keep your thighs parallel at all time and keep your foot in a dorsiflex position. For the lunges, once again, make sure you're putting your body weight into your heel. Just like in the squats, keep your knee behind your toes and keep your hips square and make sure your trunk is not rotating with each lunge. For the glute walks here, you'll need some kind of resistance band to wrap around your legs near your knees. All you need to do is get down in a partial squat position and step sideways 10 times and then come back the other way 10 times. So this is what I call the 4-way reach, which is a really good lower leg stability exercise. Start on one leg in a runner stance, and what you're going to do is reach with your other leg in 4 different directions, and you're going to come back up into that runner stance in between each reach. I'd also suggest putting an object in front of you to serve as a target, and it can be anything such as a med ball or a shoe. So first you'll reach straight backwards with your leg, back up into the runner stance. Then you'll reach backwards and across your body with your leg, back up into the runner stance. Reach backwards and to the outside of your body, back up into the runner stance. And then the last one is kind of like a one-legged squat and you're reaching forward towards that target. Once you're back into the runner stance after that last one, you're complete with one cycle of one leg with a 4-way reach. What you want to accomplish with each reach is to reach as far as you possibly can, which means you are making sure your knee is fully extended. Calf raises are pretty straightforward here. This is another one that you can start with doing it on 2 legs first. If you do it on 2 legs, I would suggest doing 2 sets of 20 calf raises. The way that I like to do calf raises is to be really slow and deliberate with the eccentric phase, or while I'm going down, and then be a little quicker on the concentric phase when I push up. So now that we are done with the first 6 exercises, it's time to move on to the med ball throws. I call these first ones trunk tosses because you're really not just throwing with your arms, but you're wanting to generate as much force as you can through your hips and your trunk as possible. While generating as much force as possible, you want to try to remain upright with a stable core. The next med ball exercise is just another one focused on one-legged stability. The objective is not to throw the med ball hard, but to throw the med ball in different directions so you get practice stabilizing in different positions. So I do 33 tosses total here on one leg, and the order that I go in is just middle, right, left, middle, left, and so on until I get to 33 tosses. Onto the planks now. I like to do a plank cycle that consists of a base plank, side plank, back plank, other side plank. For one cycle, I do each plank for 45 seconds, moving straight onto the next one, and then in between cycles, I'll take 45 seconds rest. If you're inexperienced with planks, you might start with 30 or even 20 seconds on each side. I like to progress my planks a lot throughout a training cycle, so I'll start with standard base planks with no movements at all, and then eventually I will add in lateral movements or vertical movements to add a one-legged stability effect to the planks. In this particular session, I was pretty far into a training cycle, so I was doing lateral movements for the first cycle of planks, and then in the second cycle of planks, I was doing vertical movements along with some cherry pickers on the side planks as well. To finish things up here, we've just got some shoulder taps, and this is a great exercise to figure out how to control and stabilize your core. So the starting position for this exercise is to keep your knees on the ground. The closer your knees are together, the more difficult the exercise is, and you want your hands to be directly beneath your shoulders and maintain a straight line through your knees, hips, and shoulders. The objective here is to alternate between touching each opposite shoulder while not swaying side to side at all. You want to maintain your position completely throughout the exercise. Imagine that you have 2 pillars on the outside of each shoulder and you are not allowed to touch those pillars at all. Once you finish the shoulder taps, then you are completely finished with this routine. So to wrap things up here, here's why I see strength training as such an important piece of your training. One of the most important things in seeing how good you can become as a distance runner is seeing how much you can train. Running with better biomechanics allows you to train more with less risk of injury. So then hopefully you'll be able to train more on a day-to-day basis and more consistently throughout the year because you're not dealing with as many injuries or even as many aches and pains. So always remember, the best way to get better at running is simply to run more, but in order to run more with less risk, you cannot neglect the ancillary work. This routine has helped me out a lot, so I hope it helps you as well. That's all I've got though, so catch you next time.